Even tears could not make it through the years to come. Did life leave them right, or did life leave them done? In the land where souls clash, guns blast, a new day and age for man, young black males don't last. Sell drugs trying to get cash, cause time is going too fast. When we die, where do we go? The elderly don't even know. Too much sorrow and pain, too much rain and gray days. How long will people of Mother Earth realize that life is worth not a bullet but jewels and pearls? If you did not know, we living in the last days of the world. So please concentrate and meditate on your soul, cause you never know when you might go.
So many demands of your time. I want to teach you how to use your mind instead of your fist to resolve conflict. Cause I'm not raising no convicts in here. And I'm taking you off that endangered species list, though sadly that's where some young brothers are. That's where some young brothers are. Stealing cars at 10 and 11 years old. Not understanding the consequences of crime. They become a part of a system that does not love them. A revolving door that spins to spiritual oblivion. And my heart is burdened for you and them.
I wish that I could find the words to say, I wish that I could find the proper way to stop the police from beating all my brothers, all my sisters in these streets. It's not about then, it's all about now. You see, we can't live at all without our skin going on trial. And the police are acting as judges and executioners with 12 rounds of juries. Yet dead men can't tell their stories against a fraternal order solemn oath to serve and protect, and these officers do both with no one to argue except tainted evidence. 3 shots in the back, that's still irrelevant, because who would believe the police break laws without a good cause? I wish that I could find the words to say, A
very kind, lovable father and brother, uncle. He just was a lovable man.
He was real family oriented. He totally changed his life around.
The community gets upset is because you have an African American male and 13 police officers all coming into question because somebody put their hand in a spaghetti bowl.
Conflict between my other brother, my oldest brother, Gregory. He was trying to go out and help and get Gregory, and the officers told him he ain't have nothing to do with it, and it was just like 13 of them just came and piled on him.
Pushed down on the ground with somebody's knee in his back while one got the blackjack under his neck and one macing him. That's just overdoing it.
It's like one of us. If 13 officers is on us holding your nose and spraying you, you gonna kick and do all that too to get air. Come on, 13, it ain't take no 13 officers to, hold no one guy. Cyril Wecht wrote it as homicide. Period.
Our office conducted an open inquest, and we felt that the police officers had used excessive force and that they had caused Mr. Dixon's death. We made that very clear after an open inquest. We reported our findings.
Let him know that we cry out for him to please get some justice done to these officers. If he have a heart, imagine what me and my family is really going through, and at least let me know it's in process or something, don't just let them get away.
I can't speak for him. We have been somewhat surprised and disappointed in some instances where the district attorney's office has not pursued charges where we have recommended them, but we can't control them. I will say, again, not to excuse or rationalize or answer for them, they do have to look at a case differently than we do. We determine whether we think there is probable cause. And without getting too technical legally, you must understand that in a criminal case, and especially in a murder case, you have to prove a case literally, as the law says, beyond a reasonable doubt, quote unquote.
You know, clearly police are charged with protecting and serving, and clearly they are authorized legally to use deadly force in certain circumstances. So we looked at 16 police deadly force cases. All of them went first to Wecht, all of them went next to Zappala, and a handful of them went to the courts from there. What we found was that Dr. Wecht had recommended that homicide charges be filed in, I believe, 5 of the cases. In 2 of those cases, District Attorney Zappala went on to prosecute. In 1, he opted not to prosecute, and in the other 2, he's not rendered a decision yet. And I should note that in 1 of those 2, he has asked Dr. Wecht to reopen his file, and Dr. Wecht has agreed to do that, that being the case of Bernard Rogers.
These housing cops claiming they defended me, but quick to empty and get back like they did my man Bernie Mac, may he R.I.P.
On November 15, 2002, a housing authority police officer, Tanya Curry, is supposedly have shot our son Bernard Rogers for no just cause.
Some housing authority police officers said that they were patrolling in the Bedford dwellings, believed that he was selling drugs there, and pursued him into a building. When they located him in an apartment, he resisted, fought an officer over the officer's gun, and the officer shot him. Other witnesses said that he only tried to flee the officers. He struggled with them, knocked him down, and was running away when he was shot. If he was running away when he was shot, then that would be a homicide.
You think your son was running away?
Yes, he was leaving the building when he was shot. That's what the pathologist said. When the judge, Mancini, asked him, what was your opinion? He said, I went back twice. In my opinion, is that when he was with the angle of the bullet, that he was bleeding, that he was going down the steps, and when he was shot, his momentum took him down to the bottom of the steps. That's how he made it to the bottom of the steps. And they said that he didn't even believe that he can open the door after he was shot. What happened to all the witnesses? Have heard nothing that they did illegally. They smelled marijuana smoke in the hallway, and then they checked the ashtrays. They didn't find anything there. They never brought the evidence that. They never found drugs in the building. My son never had a weapon. He never had drugs. He never had no drugs in his body. We haven't heard anything. It's a cover-up. We see it coming.
No real new evidence, but present Officer Schwartzwelder's opinions. Officer Schwartzwelder has demonstrated racism on the stand in the way that he has sneered at the testimony when referred to the testimony of the African-American lay witnesses in this case. And I believe that his testimony, Officer Schwartzwelder's testimony, should be discounted on those grounds. He has openly shown bias against the African-American community.
Mm-hmm. That a police officer in a criminal homicide potential case can take the Fifth Amendment. I mean, that's really stretching, isn't it? As a citizen, if I took the Fifth Amendment, the media would be all over me saying, well, he must be guilty, he wouldn't talk. You know, let me exercise my freedom and my rights under law, as this officer is supposedly recognizing his own rights under law, and a man dead in the process. The police are the only ones in this country who can pass a death sentence on you.
It's an important matter for the surviving family members of Bernard Rogers. It's an important matter for the police community, and it's even a more important matter for the community at large. Anytime there's a civilian shot and killed by a member of law enforcement, it goes beyond the impact of the immediate family, of course, as profound as that may be. and the entire community deserves a fair and even-handed evaluation and answer. We've taken a great amount of time and energy and invested it in this case, so any perceived reluctance is not that. It's just trying to do a fair and even-handed and complete evaluation of the evidence and available evidence in the event that charges would be pursued.
Our son was born on August 26, 1976. He attended various elementary schools, and he graduated from Shinley High School. And he also had just gotten, in the summer, his degree from Duff's Business School.
I miss him because during the winter he would come and shovel the snow for me. If I had any problems, he was always there to help me. This is our first Christmas without him. Everything is the first without him. I miss his presence. I miss his love. I miss his, you know, he coming around every day asking me, how's everything going, Dad? Do you need anybody? Do you need me to do anything for you? So I miss that. We miss that. We just miss his love. And but one great thing about it all, his friends still come around. During the funeral, we had over 1,000 people who attended his funeral.
Everyone who's known my son knows that he is a non-confrontational person. Bernie loved life. He was dedicated to his family, to his friends, and anyone who knew him knew that he would just walk away from problems instead of standing there to try to solve it.
The police, they harass people who they want to harass, but I don't think they're doing a good enough job. I mean, I'll see someone standing on a corner doing something they don't need to be doing, and then the police will drive right by and they don't say anything at all.
Investigators, it seems like the cops don't even care about murders. Like it happens every day, like there's nothing new.
I often wonder how it is, or how it's possible that so many black homicides go unsolved. And then the killer about it is, much of the time you see the homicides, and before you can even hear about the solving of one, there's another one the next night. I don't know whether to be angry at the cops or be angry at us.
To say that we're not really trying to solve the homicides is, I can't believe that's even being stated. One of the biggest problems that we have is people who are willing to come forward to give information. That's our biggest obstacle. Economics plays a role, but I find also that a lot of the people that we deal with that are committing the crimes, if they had a job offered to them, they would not take it. There's a certain amount of excitement or rush that they get in being involved in this gangster style type life. You know, they prefer that to doing a regular 8 hours at minimum wage or $10 an hour or more.
My son was Raymond Germany. He was 23 years old when he was murdered. I mean, he came from a great home. He gave him everything he wanted. Unfortunately, from the time he was 14 up until he died, he kind of stayed in one situation after another. He would get out of one program and get in another, and either make bad choices or hang with the crowd, just doing the wrong things. Your luck is going to run out. Someone that he trusted, for him to leave that late at night to go back up there, he hung out on Francis Street in the projects. And when he got there, I believe the person that called him wasn't there, and he was approached by a young man, I was told, to make a drug transaction, and they proceeded to go in the hallway to do the transaction. There was another gentleman in there as a lookout, I was told. And as they were making the transaction, it was really a setup. The one young man shot my son, and as my son went to run up the steps, he was met by another actor, and he was killed, and then he fell back down the steps and he died. Personally, I keep seeing my son on that table. When I had to identify his body, you know, he was in a body bag, zipped up halfway, and I had to identify him like that. And that stays in your mind. way he described the pain is like, it's like an abyss. It's like an endless bottom. It's like dropping a penny into an ocean. There's never a bottom. I miss my Ray. I just wish I could hear him say, Mom, what you doing? You all right? What you cook? You don't never cook. But he would always say, you know, I miss him getting on my nerves. You know, you think, it's a beautiful day, and it's a shame my son is laying in his grave.
Don't grieve for me, for I'm now free. I'm following the path God led for me. I took his hand when I heard him call. I turned my back and left it all. I could not stay another day to laugh, to love, to work or play. If my parting has left a void, then fill it with remembered joy. A friendship shared, a laugh, a kiss. Oh yes, these things I too will miss. Be not burdened with time of sorrow. I wish you the sunshine of tomorrow. My life's been full, I've savored much. Good friends, good times, a loved one's touch. Perhaps my time seemed all too brief. Don't lengthen it now with undue grief. Lift up your heart and share with me. God wanted me now, he set me free.
My son was Robert Dixon, and he had just turned 22 when he was murdered, June 25th of 2001. And they were great kids, you know, 99% of the time, and you know, the bad choices that they made caught up with them later. And Rob was just very active always with his family, in the community. He was in you know, our youth group at church. He was active with football with his high school. He went off to college and did a year of football, and you know, he came back and got with the wrong crowd, made some bad choices, got in a little trouble, then started getting back on the right track. But unfortunately, somebody from his past came back and decided to take his life out. Pretty much what happened with Rob was he had a fight with this young man about 6 months before the homicide. And apparently it was a small scuffle from what I hear, you know, from the street. He said he seen Rob coming down from Lincoln and claimed he was going to sell him a gun. He said he came out the side of the alley here and showed Rob the gun as Rob was walking up this way. He said he showed Rob the gun, but meanwhile Rob was with two young girls. He was getting ready to walk them down. Two younger friends of his best friend, nieces of his best friend. And he's gonna walk them down to their auntie's house. It was like 10 at night. They were like 14. He's like, "What are y'all doing out this time of night?" He said, "It was morning." So they started walking up here. It's kind of discrepancy of whether they asked him to walk them that way or he just started walking them that way. What happened was this kid pondered about that fight for 6 months, and he actually had intentions on snuffing my son out someday when he had the chance. So he had a ex-friend of my son call him around the corner, and he came out from a house and he just shot him 4 times straight in the middle of the street. And somebody took me to where it happened. You know, I just jumped out the car. It was still moving, literally. I remember jumping out the car and just seeing that sheet up the street, and I tried to run. I didn't even see the caution tape. I didn't even see people. I just seen that sheet. And somebody said that was my son, and I seen blood. And actually the kid ran around the block and got rid of the gun, came back and stood there while everybody gathered around. The police came, coroner was questioned by detectives, and you know, just sitting there crying with everybody else like he didn't even know what happened. And a lot of accomplishments, and a lot of people from our community did really love him. And you know, they still stay in touch, and Mother's Day they bring me things, and it hurts even more because you see these young men that were his friends, and they're growing and moving on and having families and babies, and even just like the holidays that just passed, that all brings it up. If our child was the one that was killed, you know, and it's like we always have to make excuses for our child, and we don't. You know, our child was murdered, and that's just the bottom line of it. Because if you look, every household or every 10th household, you can pick them from the community and ask, do they know if anybody was affected by homicide, and they have been.
I feel great about the community overall. People are doing a lot of good things in the community, and that's mainly what's happening. However, in many sections of the communities where I live and where we live, in terms of African Americans, there are issues that need to be dealt with in terms of how do we improve the quality of life for the majority of people in our communities, and that's something we all have to work on.
Sense of security blankets, pacified by our trinkets, too scared to look at ourselves
naked in need of a spiritual facelift. Blood is being spilled like bottles filled and thrown intentionally towards the ground. And if you turn the volume down, you can hear the moon cry, cause her son died somewhere over the rainbow, following the yellow brick road, ambushed by G.I. Joe, and Rambo peeled his cap for breathing while black, cause the wizard don't play that. And these are no analogies, these are the actual facts. We're born with targets on our backs and bloodhounds on our tracks, and for all our so-called revolutionary acts, we're still running for our lives. That's why I can't go one day without closing my eyes and having a nightmare of 41 demons screaming through the air, wearing death's glare, cause my hair resembles that of Christ and my skin is kin to the sunlight. So I pray every night for rain, the kind that's purple and lasts for 40 nights and 40 days, cause it's hard to be on your way, born with one foot in the grave, living like slaves. No, in fact we're big game, hunted and slain till our blood runs in vain to make its home in sewer drains. And I can't drink away this pain, I can't smoke away this pain. In fact, I cannot even pray away this pain. One image stays embedded in my brain, that somewhere, someone right now fits this description. Young, gifted, black, is taking their last breath, puckering their lips for the kiss of death, the noose so firmly around their neck. I have nothing left, freedom or death.
History have defined that ever since African Americans have come out of slavery. We have seen very type of societal conditions that continue to keep us at the bottom rudder of society. We see it in unemployment rates. We see it in the lack of representation from the corporate level. We see it in education. We see it in training. So yes, I do think that there's a lot of work that need to be done in terms of developing a better productive relationship, a racial relationship within the city.
Yes, the city of Pittsburgh does have significant racial issues that must be addressed, and we all have to understand that they're tied in together. They are not separate. And it comes from a statement I made earlier: lack of jobs, lack of training opportunities, lack of rehab services. All of these things come together and add to the racial problems that we have. We have to evaluate our attitudes and what feeds us information that makes us reach the decisions that we reach.
A whole lot needs to be done for there to be a change. Because you're being defeated, we're being defeated on a number of different levels. It's not, you can't think of this, if you start thinking about this black problem as a one-way thing, then you're never going to get to the bottom of it. It's multifaceted. It's a thing that has to do with economics. It's a thing that has to do with our culture. It's a thing that has to do with our communication. It has a thing to do with politics. It's so multifaceted, and they're all coming against us. Economically, you have no money. You have to recognize that a ghetto has bars on it. You can't get out. It costs money to get security deposits and credit checks. 9 out of 10 poor people or black poor people got bad credit. How you gonna get another apartment and you got bad credit? How you gonna move away from these people? You ain't got no money. So now you trapped. You got us trapped in the ghetto where the guy next to me, a little bit of something, when he ain't got nothing, look real good to him. He's willing to take whatever you got. So you got us completely adversarial all the time. That's why the black folks are killing each other. We're tripping over each other, and we have no allies.
When you take away from an already, traumatized community, okay, you take away, the recreation centers, you take away, like all the things, that could get them off the streets, and don't replace it with anything.
Pittsburgh is last in health in terms of serving the African American community. Is last in terms of assisting in a lot of distressed communities and economic development. Is last in opening up corporate businesses to the African American community.
Well, I think it's an epidemic that's going on. I think it's a very complex issue. I think that in large part it's the economics of the drug trade, and a lot of people are being killed behind the drug trade. When you take the kingpin off the street, you arrest the biggest drug dealer, there are many other people who jockey to take over their turf, and there's an awful lot of killings that get done to see who is going to be the ones to do that.
It is very pervasive. It shows up in, wealthy suburbs and, poorer areas. I think we see the impact perhaps more in the poorer areas, just because, let's face it, when families have a lot of financial means, they can sometimes get better attorneys. They can, they can do various things, with financial means that sometimes families that are under greater financial stress can't do, to either deal with the problem in a different way, or sometimes, unfortunately, they wind up hiding the problem.
There's nobody holding these people's head to a gun and say, you better sell drugs or you're gonna die. Society says to them, if you want to have the better car, if you want to afford the better clothes, if you want to have, this type of lifestyle, you gotta do it. It's not because socially we are trained to sell drugs. Socially we are trained to be capitalists. We are trained to be consumers.
Accessibilities of weapons. How can you have a 16-year-old running the street being chased by the police with an AK-47 in his hand? Why does he still have that AK-47 in his hand? Does he have to take it back to his rightful owner? And who might that be? Those are the questions we need to find out.
Certainly in 38 out of 50 states, people can go to gun shows and buy guns with no questions asked, and those guns can easily be sold into the secondary firearms trafficking market, which gives rise to a tremendous number of guns available on the black market, available to be purchased at relatively low costs by people who would otherwise be prohibited from buying them.
The large majority of homicides are committed by firearms. Okay. But the second part, a lot of those firearms are obtained illegally. So removing weapons from the general population will probably not have a great effect on the number of homicides. It's much more important with the gun buy program they're having this weekend and other ones to get the illegal drugs off the street, because those are the ones that are committing, well, people commit homicides, not guns, but it's more the legal drugs or legal weapons that are responsible.
Goods for Guns has been operating an annual gun buyback, did 8,192 guns over the course of those 10 years. We just finished our 10th annual gun buyback, in which we took in 562 guns.
Politically, you have nobody on your side. You have people that talk. Oh, they put up a good talk game. When you put up a camera, oh, you get a whole lot of people show up then.
I do think that we need to begin to help to develop informal leadership. Unfortunately, a lot of established black leadership in this city have become isolated from their home community.
The double do nothing CP, they don't do anything. I mean, they're nothing. They're defunct. I mean, they're still calling themselves colored people.
It's called the Association for the Advancement of Colored People. We've never chosen to change that. We've withstood pressure even from our own community to change it, because the word colored is offensive to many blacks, but the historic significance of it we can't overlook, and we just can't throw the baby out with the wash.
It's been a while since I talked with NAACP. They would come on the marches and stuff. They was real, helpful with us.
They do a fine job in their efforts to try to reduce violence. Unfortunately, they don't receive a lot of support from the community.
Until I'm dead and on the sidewalk, the NAACP don't even show up.
Each and every one of us is an individual. I'm not going to let people do things that I know are wrong right in front of me. When you see crime happening, We ain't asking you to go like, become the hero, because that's not what we need. What we need you to do is, when you see crime happening, or you see crime situations that could happen, you can call the police. You don't have to give them your name. You can fill out silent complaint forms. You can notify people that you trust.
Everybody to do their part, because these are your neighborhoods. You won't let a few bad people make it bad for everybody. Next week it could be your grandson that's in the ground. And had you came forward, maybe that young man would have been arrested. I put me and Valerie together because what the enemy meant for evil, God turned into something good by birthing our ministry, Divine Intervention Ministries, which is now helping families help their families get their homicides solved through a vision that Valerie had with the Billboard campaign.
Maybe a billboard, who killed my son? Somebody would come forward. But in the process of creating that billboard, all these other children were murdered, and I knew it was bigger than just Rob. And I wanted to invite other families in on the idea that I had to create a billboard with a face, not just a name, because a face is really more powerful. When you see that face sitting up there and someone says, I knew him, then it really goes a little deeper than just seeing a name and, please make this phone call. So we decided to put a name on the bill, the face with the name on the billboard, DivineInterventionMinistries.org, and it's a confidential tip line.
To step up to the plate. You could just pick up the phone and call, but do your part, get involved.
No matter what your agenda is, there's a broader agenda here in our community, and that broader agenda is to make sure that our children are safe and grow up into healthy, productive young people.
Oh, it's a poem by Claude McKay. It's called If We Must Die, which unbelievably he wrote in 1916, and it rings more true today than ever. And it says, it goes, if we must die, let it not be like hogs hunted and pinned in an inglorious spot, while round us bark the bad and hungry dogs, marking their mock at our cursed lot. If we must die, let us nobly die, so that our precious blood may not be shed in vain. Then even the monsters we defy shall be constrained to honor us, though dead. O kinsmen, we must meet the common foe. Though far outnumbered, let us show us brave, and for their 1,000 blows deal one death blow. What before us lies, the open grave. Like men, we'll face the murderous, cowardly pack, pressed to the wall, dying, but fighting back.
Gotta do this, not only for ourselves, but for our children. The babies coming up without their dads, but brothers getting popped on the Ave by the cops, man. It's gotta stop early. We need all y'all people to walk with us. All those oppressed people, everybody on the Ave, everybody in the pen. Come on, man, walk with us. Listen, culture can bring us closer, long as it isn't tainted, and you understand the universal scheme of things. It's the little things that add up to the bigger things that magnify your inner dreams. Walk with me, talking about the ghetto and how it's made us stronger. How you put us in the position to make us daughters, but we the sons and daughters alike. The mother, father, you right, the sun don't set till it's ready, and it's a new day. The revolution won't be televised, so we probably